Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Nick from Top Notch Sports, and this is a 2024 NFL wide receiver prospect scouting analysis for the 2024 upcoming NFL draft. I go over every single prospect in this video. We have probably over 20 guys at least in this ranking. We're going to go over it all. It's probably going to be a little bit over an hour. There's going to be timestamps eventually on each player, so you can click on it if you're coming back to watch this 5 years later, or if you're watching this right now. There, as long as it's not live, and I've had a few minutes to go through and see what time everyone's at, there's going to be timestamps. Click on the guy you want to view, and it'll have the analysis there. At the very end of the video, I'll do my rankings according to my grade scale and my personal analysis. Grade scale is an unbiased scale that ranks them based on the grades they get. My personal analysis is putting their physicals, their height, weight, right, all that, their speed, their tape, everything together onto one silver platter, and then finally give you my breakdown, my rankings. Again, I want to make this clear. A few things. Number one, I know everyone loves the rankings. That's their favorite part. Me personally, I'd rather you watch the analysis on each player, right? My rankings are going to be way off at times, and you're going to see my track record in a few seconds here. But the analysis is where it's all at. So if you want to have any information on a player, go look at their analysis. Even if you're watching this video 5 years from now, watch the analysis. That's the important part. On top of that, the rankings as well, I spend the least amount of time with them. Okay, I'm telling you, probably I spend maybe 30 minutes doing the rankings. I spent hours and hours and hours on their tape and their analysis. Go listen to the tape and the analysis on the player. Lastly, the rankings. This is another reason why I hate it. Every player has strengths, every player has weaknesses, depending on the team they get drafted to, et cetera, et cetera. That can make them be the number one receiver or make them go from what should be the number one receiver to the 21st receiver. Okay. So again, the rankings are who I would draft and when I would draft them. Okay. According to my team. But if I'm another team, if someone fits my scheme a little bit better, I'm going to go with that guy. Okay. So again, if you need a burner, I'm going to take the burner over the slot, the slot receiver, et cetera, et cetera. If you need a 1A or a 1B, I'm going to take that over the elite slot receiver. But if I need a slot receiver, I'm going to take the elite slot over the guy that has the potential of being the 1A. Now, when I'm just doing this ranking, I got to try to balance that all out, and it's very tough to do. So again, watch the analysis. Let's hop into this now. So here's my track record, right? From 2018 to 2021, then we'll do 2022 and 2023. This is my rankings excluding some injuries or bust, okay? If they were injured and they didn't really play at all, I took them off the list. If they were injured most of their career and they made them be a bust, I took them off the list, okay? Because those are guys, why even worry about them? They never really played, so you really can't count that against my track record. But what you can do is count my track record for the guys that I actually missed on, okay? And I did miss on some guys, okay? Going back, and you're going to see some guys here, and you're like, holy crap, how did you miss on that? So I want to make this clear too. I try to go for the home run here sometimes. And you know what? Since 2021, I've been trying to fix that because that year I went home run ball, and you know what? I completely missed. So now I'm trying to settle down a little bit. 2018, okay? Cortland Sutton 1, Calvin Ridley 2, DJ Chark 3, DJ Moore 4, St. Brown 5, James Washington 6. As a prospect, being a guy as big as Sutton was, I like that a lot. And again, I felt like he had the potential of being a 1A. And when he has played, he's looked pretty dang good. I don't think he lived up to expectation. I don't think he is the number one guy, but I do feel like he had the body and the makings to be a 1. Calvin Ridley, number 2. Really good route runner. Didn't think he had the body to be a 1A receiver like Cortland Sutton did, but was a really good, crisp route runner. Had some injuries in his career. Then the betting thing, it just kind of went downhill. DJ Chark, 3. DJ Chark had the size and the speed to be an elite receiver. Injuries, again, absolutely killed him. But, again, I still left him on the list because I do feel like there was enough there to, say that he was not deserving to be number 4. Number 4, DJ Moore. DJ Moore probably, you could argue, ended up being the best receiver in this draft class. He's a good route runner. He has decent size. He can break tackles. He can do a little bit of everything. When he was with Carolina, I personally thought he wasn't that good. When I saw him in Chicago this year and he just became an absolute phenomenal playmaker for Justin Fields, now I can argue that this guy is actually pretty solid. So, yeah, we're going to wait and see what happens here. And DJ Moore could be that guy that you end up saying is the best receiver in the 2018 draft class. Equinemius St. Brown, number 5, didn't really ever pan out. And James Washington, 6, same thing. 2019, I was one of the only people to put DK Metcalf number 1. Most people he was 4, 5, 6 on. I had him number 1. And you know what? You can say it's ballsy. for a while, I think besides like maybe last year or the year before, you could argue that he was number one. AJ Brown now, most people would be the consensus number one. And he was the consensus number one going into the year two in 2019. I have DK number one. When I looked at him, he was a freak of nature, big guy that was extremely fast. He had all the makings to be an elite receiver. I think he still is an elite receiver with a little bit of an issue dropping the football. But AJ Brown, I think most can argue is number one. And I don't feel that you can really blame me for putting DK number one now, because if you look at all the physicals and stuff, he had the makings to be elite. And he still is pretty dang good. He's probably a top 10 receiver, most could argue. So you put AJ Brown and DK Metcalf 1-2. I feel like on the year you can probably debate that. And honestly, again, DK Metcalf, he's been with Geno Smith in the last 2 years. Give him an elite level quarterback, and again, he might be on that ranking to be a top 5 receiver in the National Football League. Marquise Brown, number 3, he's had some ups and downs throughout his career. Terry McLaurin, number 4, again, same thing kind of with him. Haven't had great quarterback play around those two. And then Deebo Samuel, number 5. The thing about Deebo Samuel is this, okay? He's with San Fran. They know how to use him. But again, it's tough to put him up against someone like Marquise Brown and Terry McLaurin, because someone like Terry McLaurin is an elite level. Like, he's a pretty dang good all-around receiver. Deebo Samuel needs to be used in a certain way, right? He has that running back body. He's the elite. He's special. But Kyle Shanahan can get that really out of him. And then I had N'Keal Harry 6, and I think most people would agree he was the worst of that bunch. So honestly, 2019, I would give myself an A-. I don't know what you think. I would probably give myself an A-. You can say Deebo should be 3, but as prospects, I think that was fair. Coming out in 2019. 2020, okay? 2020. This was a fun year. Okay, CeeDee Lamb was number 1. I thought CeeDee Lamb was all well-rounded. For a while, I thought maybe Henry Ruggs. I ultimately went with CeeDee Lamb. Number 2 in Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs had the makings to be great, and I think the second year in Las Vegas, he looked pretty good when he was with the Raiders for the second year. Derek Carr started finding him a little bit more, started looking good. Terrible tragedy, no longer in the league, right? So he's a guy that, again, it's tough to say against it. Denzel Mims and Justin Jefferson, 3-4. I want to make this clear. Okay, Denzel Mims and Justin Jefferson. The same reason why Justin Jefferson's at 4, it's the same reason why Denzel Mims was at 3. I absolutely love both of these guys' tapes. Their tape was good. Denzel Mims going to the New York Jets with Sam Darnold and everything didn't help his career at all. And I still wish we can go back to win that 2020 season and put him on a team like the Vikings, where they had steady quarterback play, or Dallas, where they had steady quarterback play, or even the Las Vegas Raiders, where they had steady quarterback play, and let him play then. Situation means everything. Denzel Mims, to me, was a really good receiver coming out. Same thing with Justin Jefferson. I was high on Justin Jefferson. I was. A lot of people had this guy 7-8. Some people had him 6. Some people had him 10, for the love of goodness gracious. I had him at 4. I know it looks low now, because you can argue he's the best that I've ever won on this list, but I had him extremely high compared to other analysts. And the reason why they won't let you see their rankings from back then and they hide it, because they don't want you to see how low they truly had this guy. And I'm very clear and open about every single one of my draft picks in my analysis, because I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm going to show you the truth. And the difference is that nobody else shows you their positional rankings from year to year, because they're scared they're going to be wrong. Jerry Jeudy 5. Again, Jerry Jeudy was most people's number 1 or number 2. I had him at 5. Okay, I saw some flaws. Really good route runner, but I didn't think he could be a 1A. Really good 1B, and that's what I think he could be. Laviska Shenault 6. Thought he could kind of be like Deebo Samuel, but he never was. He never turned out to be that guy. I still think his tape was pretty dang good. And last but not least, T. Higgins. I love T. Higgins. I love this guy. Fast, big, athletic, could go up and get it. Again, 7, really high for me. A lot of other people had this guy around 10, 12, et cetera, et cetera. The same year, remember, Michael Pittman Jr., all these guys were in this draft class. And, if you go back and watch my videos, I talk about every single one of the guys I just mentioned very deeply. So go back, listen to what I had to say about those guys. Okay, 2021. I know I'm going to get some heat here. Probably my worst year all around. When I look at it all around, probably my worst year. And you can argue 2020 didn't look great either, yada, yada, right? I still think you take CeeDee Lamb, Ruggs. All right, I missed on Mims, right? But again, I think that had more to do with, drafts pick-wise, like where he went. The only other argument, all right, number 1, you can argue CeeDee Lamb or Jefferson. I think after that, you would probably go, if Henry Ruggs still had his career, I think you could go Ruggs 2 and T. Higgins tied for that other spot. So it would be T. Higgins and Ruggs, and then finally Jeudy. So I missed on Jefferson, okay? I know Chenault, I know Mims never panned out, but swipe those two away. The ranking's pretty much okay. Lamb, Rodgers, Chenault. Higgins. So it would be Jefferson, Lamb, Rodgers, Higgins. Okay. And I do have two busts in there. And I'm not going to say, oh, you got to defend me there. There's going to be misses. Everyone's going to miss. 2021 was pretty awful too, but not really. All right. I'll go over each pick. Devontez Smith's tape was phenomenal. He can high point the ball better than anybody. The thing is, usually I like guys that are about 6'2", 6'3", 220, 210, 220, 205 at least. Guys that are fast, they can route run a little bit, right? They can go up and get it. The only thing that scared me about Devontez Smith, he was very skinny, but his tape was out of this world. High pointing, route running, phenomenal. This guy can do it all. The only thing was he was skinny, but I made him number one because I really did believe that, you know what? The first time ever, I'm not going to look at the body, and I'm just going to look at the tape, and he seemed like he was truly the best on tape. Number two, Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman made a lot of contested catches in college. He had that size I was looking for. He was pretty fast. But then he goes to the Baltimore Ravens. And one thing about the Ravens is this. They don't throw the football as much as other teams do. So someone like Bateman, his career is going to get covered a little bit. And on top of that, they're not going to throw the ball a lot. And then they brought in guys like OBJ, and they're doing all this stuff, and he got banged up. It just stinks because I think this guy could be really good, and he's still super young. But again, he's not like Devontez Smith or the next guy on the list, and Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase was everyone's consensus number one. The issue I had about Jamar Chase was he blew up 1 year, and honestly, he ended in the perfect spot in Cincinnati with his former LSU quarterback in Joe Burrow. You can't say that Jamar did not end in the perfect situation. You put Jamar Chase on the Ravens, and you put Rashad Bateman on the Bengals, and I'm not saying Jamar Chase is nobody and Bateman's a superstar, but I think they're a lot closer. I think that they're a lot closer. And unfortunately, we'll never see that, and Bateman may go down as a bust, and Chase may go down as the best quarterback in the draft class. But I still argue this too. If you put Chase on the Eagles and you put Smith on the Bengals, I think that Smith is by far the best wide receiver in this draft class, and Chase is probably looking like he's the number 2 in this draft class. Devontae Smith with Jalen Hurts, who's not as good of a throw as Joe Burrow, okay, and the Eagles, who are not as much of a throw first team as the Bengals, has looked pretty damn good over there in Philadelphia for a team that's a run first team and that has A.J. Brown on that team, okay? I want to make that clear. Diamond Brown, number 4. You can say I missed there. I would probably say so too. Jalen Waddle, 5. Should have had Waddle over Diamond Brown. My only fear about Waddle was he just pure line speed? And with the Dolphins, since they have Tyreek Hill and Waddle, well, unfortunately, they're probably going to put their fastest, most best cornerback on Tyreek Hill, which is going to lead their slower, not so good cornerback on Jalen Waddle. And yeah, Jalen Waddle's going to beat most of those guys. So again, as a prospect, I don't blame me putting him at 5. I still question, is he just all speed? Because I don't see him going up and catching balls over people. Rondale Moore's 6, been injury prone a little bit. Murray's been hurt a little bit too, so it's been tough to see him really getting his feet underneath him. Kadarius Toney 7, Simi Fehoko 8, and Elijah Moore 9. Again, argue Elijah Moore should probably be 8 or 7. But again, we're going to miss all kinds of stuff. You do this 1 year, you'll see how much you'll miss. Let's get to 2022 and 2023. 2022, okay? This one, I'm pretty happy about. I'm looking at it right now, pretty happy about it, with a few exceptions, of course, okay? Number 1, Drake London. I think you still argue he's number 1. Biggest guy, has a lot of potential still, hasn't had a quarterback over there in Atlanta, but made some really awesome plays for there with no quarterback play. Chris Olave, love Chris Olave. Most well-rounded receiver probably in that draft class. I wish he was a little bit taller like London, but he was a best all-around receiver. London had potential. Olave was the best, tape guy probably in that draft class. I thought that Olave, going to a team that had a quarterback could end up being really good. And finally, seen with Carr has a pretty damn good season last year. And I argued that he was better than Garrett Wilson, who was lower on my list. A lot of people had Wilson number 1 over him. I had Olave over him, okay? Remember, again, most people's consensus number 1 coming out of this year was Garrett Wilson. I had it London 1, Olave 2. Number 3, you can say he's a bust, or you can say he's been injury-prone. Injury-plagued and in a bad situation in Tennessee. Traylon Burks has the size, the speed. Again, he has all the ability in the world. And again, my job is to rank the prospect. I think Traylon Burks is a really good prospect. I still do. Will he ever be given a chance again? I don't know. I can't say that for certain. But with the lack of quarterback play, the lack of opportunity under Mike Vrabel, I just don't know if you can say that this guy was truly a bust and he failed, or the other option, which I feel like is very possible, and maybe even likely, okay, is that they failed him and he went to a bad situation. Okay. After that, it's Alec Pierce, who I still love Alec Pierce. Again, in Indianapolis with terrible quarterback play over the last few years. I would love to see this guy with an accurate quarterback. Now, again, with Anthony Richardson going there, who was my number 2 ranked quarterback coming out of last year's draft behind CJ Stroud. Okay. My issue is that I love Richardson, but he's not the most accurate guy. When you have Pittman, okay, who's that possession guy, and you have Pierce as that burner, I'm not sure that, Anthony Richardson can consistently get Alec Pierce the football accurately. And that's going to hurt Alec Pierce's career. Garrett Wilson's career going to go way up since he has Rodgers. Who knows how long, though, and then that's going to really make that happen. But the thing is about Garrett Wilson is he's better than what I thought he was going to be. I'll say that, okay? Christian Watson, 7. Again, he had a ton of potential, but I don't think he was very polished. I still think you see that now over there in Green Bay. John Mechie, number 8. The whole cancer thing stinks because this dude had a phenomenal career ahead of him. I am still praying that he does get that opportunity because he looked good on tape. Really good route runner, crisp route runner, had good hands. I like him a lot. Dotson, 9. Khalil Shakir. Love Khalil Shakir at 10. Sky Moore, Jalen Tolbert, Wan'Dale Robinson. I still like this draft. The only thing I would say is, yeah, I got Treylon Burks wrong. Maybe put Garrett Wilson a little bit higher. And honestly, besides those 2 things, I think that I aced this one out of the ball. I think this is an A. I really do think this is an A. Okay, is there some changes? Absolutely. But when you look at it in a whole, I think this is a pretty damn good job. 2023, okay? Quentin Johnston, 1. He was a lot of people's number 1. He was a lot of people's number 1. Everyone forgets that, but he was. He was my number 1. I think his potential's still through the roof. I think that him and Herbert are going to figure it out this year. He's going to be like the only target there as of right now. Big 6'4" receiver. You can take a drag route to the house. I don't know how you can ask for much more than that. Okay. The next guy, Jackson Smith-Njigba, goes to Seattle. They have a ton of receivers over there. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. Well, he's going to be the 3rd. He started to finally find his path towards the late part of the season. I truly did not like him that much, but I felt like from a potential standpoint, I was like, this guy kind of reminds me of Jamar Chase, in my opinion, where it was like he did a lot good in college, but I just didn't know if I wanted to put him up there, and I ended up doing it because of the fear of how I missed on Chase. If I'm going to be honest with you, I would have had Rashee Rice over Jackson Smith-Njigba, and I did until the very end. And I kind of regret putting Njigba over Rice at the end because I really did like Rice more. I did. I had Rice as like my number 1 for a while. Okay. Rashee Rice, number 3. Love that guy. Hope he doesn't get in trouble. He is a really phenomenal player. And he was my number 3. And I'll tell you something right now. He was nobody else's number 3. Everyone else had this dude around 7, 8, 9. I had him at number 3. Okay. Josh Downs, number 4. When I saw his tape, I thought he was phenomenal. Him and Flowers, I kept on getting confused because they're both smaller guys. But Josh Downs, for being as small as he played like he was 6'4". He played the way that Quentin Johnston should have played on tape. Okay. And Quentin Johnston played like Josh Downs should have on tape. And that's what drove me nuts about Johnson. He's 6'4", but he plays like he's 5'8". And Josh Downs, what I loved about him is he's 5'8", but he plays like he's 6'4". He goes up, gets balls. I love Josh Downs. Going to Indianapolis now, being that 3rd receiver over there, kind of stinks. But again, if Anthony Richardson just get these guys the ball accurately between Pierce, Downs, Pierce my number 5, Downs my number 4, and Michael Pittman Jr., who was like my number 8 or 9 coming out that year, yeah, that's a pretty damn good receiving core. Pretty dang good if you ask me. Zay Flowers, number 5. Everyone's going to argue that he could have been the best this year in the draft class. I don't know. It's tough to say. It's tough to say if he was or not. I think he had a really good year. He is electrifying. You see when he catches a ball, you make people miss. We'll see how his career ends up going. Jordan Addison, number 6. Again, I thought he was going to be a really good number 1B type player, right? Quentin Johnston, Smith-Njigba, and Rice all have the capability of being a potential 1A guy. Downs, Flowers, Addison, I thought were more like 1Bs, if not really good slot receivers. Then you have Mingo, who I really liked again. Had him in my top 7, went to Carolina, didn't really have a good shot there because the quarterback play was horrible. But the thing is this. Mingo, to me, could be that guy that in the next year or so, if they can figure it out, could turn out being really good if they give him the chance. Okay? That's that. The next one here after that would be Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Nathaniel Dell, and Marvin Mims. Hyatt, I thought had some potential with his speed, goes to New York, which kind of stinks. Cedric Tillman, big guy. I like that a lot. Nathaniel Dell, Tank Dell, I'm going to tell you something right now. Dude is pretty dang good. Pretty dang good. I liked him a lot. I watched his route running on tape. I love him. That's why I hate these damn rankings. I'd much rather you watch the analysis for all these players from last year, because I'll tell you, his route running special, and I liked him. And Marvin Mims at number 11. I like him a lot too. So there's my 11 from last year that I put on this list, and that's that. So now let's hop into my grayscale. Here's my grayscale. This is how I grade these guys, okay? It's based on their release, their route running, their catching traffic, special catches, or if they get the toes and bounds of speed, their size, if they use their size or if they lack it or whatnot, agility, are they elusive or not in fighting? Do they fight for extra yards? And this is after my complete analysis, after film study and pro days. This is going to be a long video. Let's hop into it. Here's the first guy, okay? Earned a 79 as a grade. Marvin Harrison Jr., 6'3", 209, did not run a 40. Here's his notes. This kid deserves all the hype he's getting. He has some of the best hands I have watched, with good route running and a great release package to go along with it. He can be a possession receiver because of his 4 short hands, or his ability to keep both his toes in bounds on the sideline. Or honestly, he can just be a damn deep threat because of his release package and his ability to, again, get open. His ability to get some separation at times. One of my favorite parts about his game is his ability to adjust to the football. Again, when the ball's thrown up, he's able to adjust to it with great body control. There truly is not a weakness in his game. The only area I would say that lacked on his film was his ability to fight for extra yards after the catch. Harrison Jr. may be one of the best wide receiver prospects I've watched in a long time. And as long as he does not get plagued with injuries or terrible quarterback play, he will have a great career. The only way his draft stock will fall if he runs around a 4.5, 5.40. And I said I would expect his sign to be around 4.4. Anything faster than a 4.4, then his stock will rise even higher, which is nearly impossible. We knew that this guy has been like number 1 on most people's boards, okay? And here's the thing. I said again, if he runs this 40, if he runs that 40, he didn't run a 40. The one issue of concern, I must say, I know he can create separation in the aspect of route running, but when it comes to him just running a vertical, he has some good releases, but I don't know if he has that ability to run by somebody. Kind of reminds me of Davante Adams. Adams isn't the fastest guy in the world, right? He's not. Davante Adams is a guy that's going to beat you with his release, beat you with his route running, okay? Marvin Harrison Jr. is like one of those guys. He can beat you with those things, but he's not going to just run by you, okay? And that's the one thing I'll say. And the other thing I'll say, and again, I'll give you my ranking at the end. The only other thing I will say about this guy is that to me, I don't see him gain many yards after the catch. And that concerns me, okay? He can make all the catches in the world. He can get open by 1.5 yards and still make a phenomenal catch. But I didn't see him make many yards after the catch. He is literally like a possession receiver, in my opinion. Okay. What are his strengths? Great size, 6'3", 209. Great hands. He's a good possession receiver. He keeps his toes in bounds. Great release package, adjusted to football, catching in traffic. Again, he's not scared of, catching the ball over the middle of the field. Great route running and uses body to box out defenders. Weaknesses? Well, here it is. Yards after the catch, right? Again, I don't see him create many yards after the catch. He doesn't fight for extra yards, right? If he needs to break a tackle or something, he's not going to really do that. And he does not burn defenders. And again, he didn't run that 40. I wonder if he would have ended up running a 4.55 40, which to me, I thought his draft stock would fall a little bit if he did that. But he didn't run it. So I wonder if he's hiding something because he didn't even do it at his pro day. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at this. I'm not going to pause these on these. I'm going to let you look. If you want to pause, you can. But I'm not going to make you sit and look at these and break all these down. But again, just something real fast with him. For the first one, again, you can see good catching traffic, really good keeping his toes in bounds and making some really fantastic catches. And again, his fighting for extra yards, to me, is the biggest weakness that this guy has. Here's the next guy, earned a 78 as a grade. Malik Nabers, 6 foot, 190, 4.32, all unofficial pro day numbers. Okay, one more time. 6 foot, 190, 4.32, all unofficial pro day numbers. Okay, so again, I'm kind of nervous why this guy didn't weigh in or measure in at all during the combine, and then he didn't run the 40 at the combine. So again, here's the thing about that. I think he's freaking explosive. I saw it on tape. I was a little bit nervous about his size, where I thought maybe he'd be like 5'10", 5'11", but supposedly, according to his pro day, he's 6 foot, 190. And pro day 40 yards, they can be off by like about a 1/10 of a second. So he could have really ended up running a 4.42. But 4.32, taking it for what it is and trusting that that's accurate and seeing on tape, I wouldn't be surprised if he has 4.3 speed. Okay, so here's his notes. This kid is electric. After watching him, I truly have to say this draft class has a few elite receivers in it. His ability to create yards after the catch is up there with some of the best players in the National Football League. Not only is he great after the catch, but he has a really good release package along with a great ability to catch a football in traffic. He is not willing to go down easy after the catch, as he's willing to fight for every yard available. This kid is going to be an elite receiver at the next level as long as injuries or bad quarterback play do not hinder his career. So Malik Nabers is that guy to me. Okay. That kind of like when I said Marvin Harrison Jr. before, how Harrison Jr. really doesn't make yards after the catch. This guy's a complete opposite. He's gonna freaking make yards. You get this guy the ball, he's gonna be explosive for a football team. And that I love to see. Harrison, your possession guy. Nabers, your explosive guy. Let me know who you want. I don't know. I mean, it's tough, but I'll tell you something special right here. As a top 2 in your draft class, yeah, that's pretty damn good. This dude has elite speed, 4.32 speed, according to the 40. He's an electric player. He gets a lot of yards after the catch. He has a great release package, really good at catching in traffic. He fights for extra yards because he has great effort, really good route runner, special catches along the sideline, and just his hands are great and great agility. So again, this is a guy to me. There is no true weakness in his game. The only thing I would say kind of raises a flag for me a little bit is a 190 for his weight, but 190 is a far away from like 160 when we're talking about Devontez Smith. So yeah, this guy is like that prototypical receiver. I wish he was an inch or two taller. I wish he was 20 pounds heavier, but hell, you know what? His tape spoke for itself. I think this dude can be special if he plays at the next level. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy. Earned a 78 as grade. Johnny Wilson, 6'6", 231, ran a 4.5, 240. Here's his notes. This kid is not being talked about nearly enough by the media. Maybe he will be after the combine, but what is there not to like about him? First, he's a big guy that can go up and high point the football. He is one of the, if not the best in the class at going up and using his body to box out defenders. He made some great one-on-one catches. He can also make great catches on the sideline. Wilson is also not afraid to take a big hit over the middle of the field. He has pretty good releases off the line of scrimmage, but he can just throw defenders off him at times. For being a big guy, he has good enough agility. One of my favorite parts about his game is his ability to fight for extra yards after the catch. He has a nice stiff arm to get defenders off of him. I could see some people comparing him to like a George Pickens, but I may like Wilson a little bit better. Pickens was a physical receiver who had great hands, while Wilson has great hands but also has enough speed to create separation. So let me say that again. Pickens was a physical receiver who had great hands, while Wilson has not only great hands, but also has enough speed to create separation. Okay? I would not be shocked to see if Wilson runs a low 4.40. Well, he ended up running a 4.5, 240, which was a little bit slower than what I wanted. Okay, so again, I adjusted his speed slightly according to his 40 time. And again, again, it wasn't a great impressive four. I thought if he ran in the 4.4s, that could really make people think like maybe this guy shouldn't be a tight end. Maybe he should be, just a big receiver. This dude is 6'6", 231 pounds. I know people want to make him a receiver. I mean, a tight end, but why? What makes him special is his ability to be a receiver on the outside. At 6'6", 231, he's an undersized tight end. Or as a receiver, he's a freak of nature. Choose your pick. An undersized tight end that can move or a freak of nature wide receiver. I'm going freak of nature wide receiver. Line him up in the slot for a play. You're telling me a 5'7" slot corner is going to guard this guy? 6'6", 231. Put him on the outside. You're telling me he can't box out a 6'1" corner and go up and catch it? This is why I feel like this guy to me, I don't get it. He may never get a chance, but I'm telling you right now, if you're going back and watching this video 5 years from now to see what I said about Johnny Wilson, if he turned out to be a freak of nature, I told you so. He's special. And people are trying to make him be a tight end. If they move the tight end, he's going to fail. They keep him at wide receiver, and I should say he's going to fail, but he won't be as special. Let him be a receiver. Wilson, be a receiver. So what are his strengths? Dude has great size. 6'6", 231. High points the football really well. Boxes out defenders. He's a great jump ball receiver. Able to keep his toes in bounds. Catches in traffic. He's willing to take hits over the middle of the field. And he fights for extra yards. Again, as a receiver, this dude catches it. Corners aren't going to be able to tackle him. give him a wide receiver screen pass, and there's a corner out there to tackle him one-on-one, he's breaking that tackle, and then you need to hope the safety comes and rally stores him. This is a big guy. There's really no weakness in his guy. People can be nitpicky. Oh, not the greatest route runner, not this, not that. Good enough. Good enough. For his size, I like this guy. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Brian Thomas Jr., earned a 77 as his grade. 6'2", 209, a zooming 4.3, 340. One more time, 6'2", 209, 4.3, 340. So far, out of everybody we talked about, besides the pro day number of Malik Nabers and a 4.32, which I don't count as true as a real 40 like Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. so far to this point is the craziest athlete in the sense of he's 6'2", 209, okay, which I want you to be around 215, but 209 is fine. 6'2", that's right where I want you to be. 4.33. Yeah, this guy right here, number 11 that you see on tape right here, his size, right? His speed, yeah, special, okay? So here's his notes. This kid's a big guy who can move pretty well. He's one of the ones that can go up and get the football, and he's up there with some of them in the best of their draft class. He does a good job using his body to box out defenders. He also does a decent job adjusting to the football. He does a great job keeping his toes in bounds near the sideline. And he does a great job making some crazy catches. He could develop into a 1A receiver because he has all the tools and size. Whether he will get there or not depends on situation, opportunity, and quarterback play. And again, that's with everybody. This guy goes to the New England Patriots. There's a very good chance he ends up being a bust. But it's not fair to judge these guys as prospects or to judge my rankings based on where they end up. Based on tape, I promise you, he's up there in the top 5 in this draft class. And you'll see where my personal analysis has him at the end. But again, this guy has everything you can ask for in a wide receiver. The only thing I will say before I get into his strengths and weaknesses is that I don't know if I would necessarily say that his tape was as good as some of the other guys I already watched, okay? I think a lot of it for me, from his perspective, from his prospect perspective, is his physicals, is his ability to be elite because he's 6'2", 209 and runs a 4.3, 340. He has the ability to go up and catch it, but I just don't know if he's the most polished right now. But that doesn't mean he's not the best prospect. Just because you're not the most polished right now doesn't mean I won't rank him number 1. Hence Quentin Johnston, okay, from last year. Hence why I had Justin Jefferson up there, even though I think Justin Jefferson was very polished, but a lot of people just didn't have him up there. Hence, all these other guys over the years that I've been saying. DK Metcalf was another one, right? Not polished. Well, if DK Metcalf wasn't polished, but he turned out to be that damn good, then hell, I don't need to draft these polished guys. Okay, I'm just going to go out there and say I don't need to. Sometimes you just draft guys because they're freak of natures. Just like Rashee Rice, freak of nature. Jonathan Mingo to me last year, freak of nature. I think Brian Thomas Jr. can be a freak of nature, okay? Strengths, speed, 4.33. Yeah, that's freaking elite right there. That's elite speed. Size, 6'2", 209. Love to see that. And go up and get it. Boxes out defenders, adjust to the football, keep his toes in bounds, really good special catches, great releases off the line, good route running, good job catching traffic. Again, a lot of stuff in the middle. No true weakness in his game, in my opinion. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that as we go to the next guy. Here's the next guy, Ricky Pearsall, 6'1", 189, ran a 4.4, 140. Earned a 76 as a grade. Here's his notes. This kid is going to be underrated, maybe even on my list. I must say I absolutely love this tape. So here again, if he's my 10th receiver, 7th receiver, 45th receiver on this year's list, I want to make this clear. I'm telling you now in his analysis, he may even rank low on my list. I may even underrate him, but his tape was freaking great. It was great. So, yeah, he's going to be underrated by everybody. He has great hands, great body control, and knows where to sit in zones. He can play outside or in the slot, but I would believe he would be more of a slot guy at the next level. He has absolutely no fear of going over the middle of the field and absorbing huge hits. He has also the ability to make some incredible catches. This is a guy that can be an elite level slot guy at the next level. Will he be a 1A? Probably not, but that doesn't matter. This is a guy I would expect to go in the 3rd or 4th round, and as long as he is given a chance, he will be a huge addition to the football team. Now, again, that was before his combine. Once this dude ran a 4.4 140, his stock rose drastically. It rose drastically. This guy's probably going to find himself now in the second round, and I think deservingly so. I said I think he'll probably get drafted in the third or fourth round. That doesn't mean that I thought that this guy was a third or fourth round talent. Clearly, that's why he's all the way up here in his grade scale, because he's freaking good. Look at this catch. I remember watching this on tape. That's freaking phenomenal. Look at the concentration. He's watching the football into his hand. But even if you have great concentration, to make that catch, that's harder than anything. Okay? That's harder than catching it one-handed like OBJ did. I know OBJ got pass interference and stuff, but the OBJ catch is very difficult, but this may be more difficult because you're using purely your part of your hand that you're just kind of clamping down at the same time, trying to grab it. OBJ, you're kind of reaching back and kind of just clutching it. This, you're kind of just grasping at it. You just got your fingers. This ball's coming in at 20, 30, 40, 50 miles. Who knows? You don't know how fast this damn thing's coming in at you, and you're just trying to catch it with your fingers, full speed, inverted like that. That's tough to do, ladies and gentlemen. That's tough to do. So, I don't know. I mean, again, I want to make this clear. That is tough. That is tough, and he may have some of the best hands in the draft class. So his strengths: 4.41 speed, great hands, great body control, finds holes in the holes in the zones. Versatility, can line up in the both slot and on the outside. I would more likely will probably see this guy in the slot at the next level. Makes great catches in traffic. He has no fears taking hits over the middle of the field. Has some really good special catching ability, as you can see in this photo. Uses his body very well. For him being 6'1", 189, he's not afraid to put his body on the line, and especially in front of a defender. He's gonna be an elite, probably slot receiver. I list that as a strength too, elite slot receiver, because that's probably what he's gonna end up being. And if he's number 5 on my list, well, that's as a slot receiver. It's tough to, how do you balance an elite slot receiver to a guy that can be a 1A? 1A is where guys that get all the hype, but man, this dude can be an elite slot for a team that needs a slot. Weakness, right? Unlikely to be a 1A, but rather, to me, he has the possibility of being an elite slot. So again, unlikely. I don't think he has the size, the ability, the mold to be a 1A outside receiver, but hell, this guy can be a top 3, probably pretty quickly, slot receiver in the National Football League if he's in the right system and finds the right quarterback. Here's his breakdown. Again, you're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy. Earned a 74 as a grade. Troy Franklin, 6'1", 176, ran a 4.4 140. Here's his notes. This kid is one of those guys that is not like the other guys. He is the route runner and shifty type receiver. This is a guy that can get open and be an issue for defenses to guard. He has a great release package, one of the best I've seen in a while. Kind of reminds me of Tank Dell. Will this guy be a 1A at the next level? That I'm not too sure of. He will be a phenomenal number 2 on a team that has the ability or capability of being a 1B. If he is the number 2 on a team, then he will be open all day long, because no number 2 cornerback will be able to probably stick up with him. So here's the thing about Troy Franklin. Kind of giving me the Jordan Addison / Jerry Jeudy / Calvin Ridley vibe, that he's a really good number 2 receiver, has the potential of being a good number 1B, has the explosive ability to be really special for a team. And if you have a 1A to go along with this guy, he's going to be great for Dynasty Leagues, great for PPR Leagues, because he's going to be the guy that's going to constantly get open against weaker coverage. Okay, this guy can beat weaker coverage. Explosive, fast, good route running. Okay, strengths: 4.4 140, shows he's fast, great relief package, good route runner, good agility. His weaknesses, again, for him being 6'1", 176, that's where you come into some issues here with, can he fight for extra yards? He doesn't really do it on tape a lot. I don't think he's going to do it at the next level, because I didn't see it in college. And to me, he also lacks size / use of body, meaning that, again, he didn't really use his body to box out the defenders or get in front of somebody, or, be willing to go in for it. He lacks the size a little bit, and that's why he kind of lacks the use of his body, okay? So those two go hand in hand with each other. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Xavier Legette, 6'1", 221, 4.39 40. Okay, 6'1", 221, 439, 40. I'll tell you something right now. Okay, being 220, okay, and running a 439, 40. Yeah, this kid is an athlete. Big at 6'1", thick as in 220, right? Look at his arms, look at his body. This guy's a big guy, okay? 439, 40. I mean, he's outrunning guys like that are 5'11", 200. You know, he's outrunning all of them, at least in straight line, right? Nobody likes, 40 only 10 straight lines. We know this guy's fast. Okay, he's quick. All right, so here's his notes. This kid has the makings of being an elite receiver. This is a guy who I'm willing to defend because he will probably receive awkward scrutiny. Some people will love him because of his size and speed, while others will not like him because they will claim that he only has physicals. The truth is, I do not only love his size and his speed, but I love his tape. I think he put a good amount of tape together to make me feel comfortable. He uses his size to go up and get to the football. He boxes out defenders and is able to high point the football with the best of them. Okay, he makes some really good contested catches and can make some really special catches on the sideline. I do not see how he would not perform at the next level in some capacity. This kid at the worst would be a really good red zone threat or a deep threat in the NFL. I would bet on this kid's upside. I think he has the potential of being a 1A receiver. Will he be a 1A right away? Probably not. But if given the opportunity, he will develop into a number one. If he is a number two for a team, I would have to believe that he would be able to dominate most opposing number two or even number three receivers if for some reason they line him up in the slot. So here's the thing. 439, 6'1", 221, good speed, right? Really good speed, great size. He uses his size on tape, boxes people out, gets in front of them, etc., etc. He's able to high point the football. He boxes out defenders, like I already mentioned. Really good job at catching in traffic, right? Catching the ball over the middle of the field, etc., etc. And he's able to keep his toes in bounds on the sideline. The two weaknesses about his game is that he lacks elite route running and he lacks elite agility, meaning he doesn't really make many people miss an open field and he doesn't have the best route running yet. Kind of reminds me of when we used to talk about DK Metcalf. Now, with that being mentioned, do I think Xavier Legette's the next DK Metcalf? Is he as good as DK Metcalf is? No. But do I think Xavier Legette could be a guy that's really underrated because people just say he's just really a physical freak and he panned out to be really good? Yes, I do feel like a lot of people are a lot lower on this guy than they should be. I think Legette can honestly end up being a top three probably receiver in this draft class. The thing is, will he get the opportunity to be? Will he be drafted to a team with a quarterback? Will the team use him, etc., etc.? All these things truly matter. If I'm drafting somebody, this is a guy I'm circling and really considering bringing to my team because he has some abilities that other players just can't do. Right? You can work on route running, you can work on this, that, and the other thing. One thing you can't teach is speed and size, and he has both of those. So this guy is a tremendous athlete and prospect, in my opinion. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Jalen Polk, 6'1", 203, ran a 4.52 40. This kid may be one of the most slept-on receivers in this draft class. His ability to go up and attack the football has to rank in the top 5 of the draft class. He has a great ability of using his size to box out defenders. He may have some of the, if not the best hands in the entire draft class. This is a guy who has all the tools and also produce good tape. He has decent agility and fights for extra yards, which helps him after the catch. Polk has the ability to be a good receiver at the next level if given a real opportunity. So what are his strengths? Well, he attacks the football. He's not afraid. If the ball's going to throw to him, he's going to go get it. Okay, he's not going to let it get to him. He's going to go get it. And that's what quarterbacks love to see. He uses his size to box out defenders, has really good hands, as I mentioned before, able to catch a ball in traffic, and he can make some really good, awesome special catches. Doesn't really have a weakness. So you see not as many strengths, not as many weaknesses, a lot of in between, right? This is something to me is a coach's dream. Somebody that there's not a lot to clean up, but there's a lot to improve and to get this guy really good. But I really like Jalen Polk. I wish he ran a little bit better at 40. This dude could show me that he ran like a 4.45-ish 40 or in the 4.4s. That would have been the difference maker. 4.53 shows me he's a little bit slow. Some could argue maybe he doesn't create the greatest separation, but between his hands, the way he attacks the football, as he uses his size, etc., etc., this is a guy to me that I would be willing to take a chance on again. And I again, to be honest, you can argue that this guy was the best receiver in Washington this year, which I know is unpopular opinion. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Malik Washington, earned a 74 as his grade. 5'8", 191, 4.4740. 5'8", 191, 4.4740. This kid was a special surprise to watch on tape. He has a great old school football mindset. He seems like he can be an explosive slot receiver at the next level that also has the ability to return kicks. The only negative about his game is that he lacks size. If this guy was 6 foot, he would be a no doubt first rounder. His tape is too damn good. First, he can make all the catches on the football field. Secondly, he is a great route runner after the catch. Not only can he juke people out, but he is also willing to run people over. He is not afraid to take a crushing hit over the middle of the field, which is great to see. He should be a threat in some form at the next level. Again, 5'8", 191, didn't run a fast 4. This is a guy usually I would write off, right? 5'8", undersized, 191. Well, you're not around 205 to 215, which is where 205 being the least I want you at, 215 being more where I want you. So, he's about at least 14 pounds underweight for my liking. 4.47, I would prefer anyone around a 4.4. That's what I want to see, around a 4.4. So he is right, for physicals. But I'll tell you something, he's for tape. His tape was good. So this is a guy that I'm going to give a chance. Like his tape was too damn good to be crossed off. He really was. Strengths, explosive slot receiver, okay? Good kick and punt returner. Great after the catch. He has great agility, but not only for being only 5'8", 191, he'll run you the hell over. He'll run you over. He can catch in traffic. He makes some really special catches. He can be a really elite slot receiver at the next level, and he fights for extra yards. Okay? He fights for extra yards. Weaknesses. He lacks size. He's 5'8", 191. And he's unlikely to be a 1A. But again, he much rather has a chance of being an elite slot receiver. If he's going to be a receiver at all and play offense, he's most likely going to have to play in the slot. Okay? Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Odunze, earned a 73 as his grade. 6'2", 212, 4.4540. Okay? One thing I want to mention right out the gates, right? I continue to say, I want you to be around 6'1", 6'2 at least. I want you to be around 215 if possible. He's 212. I want you to run around a 4.440. He runs a 4.45. 6'2", 212, 4.45. That's almost, unlike Malik Washington we just talked about, Odunze is like check, check, check. He checks all the boxes physically. So now let's get into his tape. This kid has the ability to do a little bit of everything. He can stretch the field vertically, be utilizing the screen passing game, or take a hit over the middle of the field. His ability to create yards after the catch, whether it's using his agility, following his blockers, or fighting for extra yards, is fun to watch. As much as he is able to do a little bit of everything, I do not think he is a 1A to start his NFL career. I think to start his career, he would be a number 2 with 1B upside. He has the ability to eventually become a 1A if he continues to develop or is put in a great situation. So Odunze is a guy to me that he checks all the boxes that you want. I listened to many interviews of this guy. I don't listen to a lot of interviews of everybody, but I've heard a lot that he's a hard worker, that, he just seems like a really good kid. I'm going to bet on this kid's upside. I don't think he's the most talented, but I do think his physicals are there, and I think his work ethic is there. So if you combine those two things, I think anything's possible. And I'll tell you something right now, there's a lot to work with here in this kid. I just don't know if he's the most polished right now, and that's when I make it clear on my unbiased grade scale is going to put him here. It puts him down the list a little bit. But my personal analysis is going to be a little bit biased towards, size and what I feel like the kid's going to be in his work ethic. And I've been wrong before. You saw my track record prior to this, but you'll see my grade skills record in a little bit too. So we'll see what happens. But again, his size, 6'2", 212, is a strength. He gets yards after the catch. Again, he can do a little bit of everything. He juke guys out, run them over a little bit, throw a nasty stiff arm. And on top of all that, he's great at following his blockers. Okay, he's able to follow his blockers and pick up extra yards. Good job catching balls in traffic, has that special catchability, has good agility, and he fights for extra yards. Again, no true weakness in his game. A lot of middle, though. A lot of middle. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, okay? 5'11", 186, 4.3940. Lad McConkey earned a 73 as his grade. Again, one more time. 5'11", 186, 439, 40. His name is Ladd McConkey. That's Ladd McConkey. Let's see what his notes say. This kid is a smooth route runner that is also good after the catch. He is very agile and seems to be savvy. He has a good understanding of where to sit down in zones. He is also willing to take a hit over the middle of the field and still hang on to the football. Will this kid be a 1A? I am confident enough to probably say no. That is not a bad thing, though. Some receivers are just not bred to be a 1A receiver, or a 1A in a scouting report. But does this mean he will be a bad receiver? Absolutely not. I think he can be a great slot receiver in the National Football League, kind of like a Renfro a few years back. I truly believe he will run a better 40 time than what most people are projecting, which is a 4.60 40. If he can run in the mid to low 4.5s, his stock will rise quite a bit. He is extremely quick and explosive in small spaces. They were projecting this man to run a 4.6, and as you can tell on my notes that were prior to the draft, I said I think they're terribly underestimating his 40 time. If he can run a mid to low 4.5, his stock will rise. Well, guess what? He didn't run a mid to low 4.5. He for sure as hell didn't run a 4.6. He didn't even run in the 4.4s. So did he run a 4.7? No. He ran a 4.39. Wow. Wow. And I'll tell you something. To me, I saw that speed on tape. To others, they questioned it. Oh, he's going to run a 4.6. No. I thought he was fast, and like I said, he's quick and explosive in small places. Guess what happens when you're quick, explosive, and twitchy? You make a great slot receiver in the NFL. His strengths, speed, 4.39 40. That's great. Smooth route runner, right? Gets really good yards after the catch, finds holes in zones, catching traffic, not afraid to take a hit, and he's an elite slot receiver. Okay. Weaknesses are he's unlikely to be a 1A, right? But rather a really good and an elite slot receiver. He lacks size / use of body, right? What does this mean again? Well, 5'11", 186, right? He doesn't really have great size, and he doesn't really use his body on tape. So he lacks the use of his body, and he doesn't have great size, okay? Let's continue here. And lastly, he doesn't really fight for extra yards. Once he gets wrapped up, he's most likely going down. Again, that part of his game kind of reminds me of a Renfro. This is a much quicker, much faster, explosive, twitchy, unique route runner like a Hunter Renfro. He's a more athletic Renfro, but I don't know if he's going to be as creative as Renfro is with his route running, which again makes you start to be like, the one thing that made Renfro great was his creativity. And McConkey can, acquire some of that creativity that Renfro has, then hell, and smarts, this guy can be really good if the team's willing to use them. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Brenden Rice, 6'2", 208, ran a 4.5 40. This kid on tape looks like he has some great straight line speed. He seems to be a complete wide receiver from the standpoint that he checks off every box. I love the way he uses his body to attack the football. I believe between his route running and speed, he should be able to beat most defenders anyway. To start his career, it will probably be a number 2 with the upside of developing into some type of number 1 if given an opportunity in a decent situation. Brenden Rice is again 6'2", 208, 4.5 40, 6'2", right where I want you to be, 208, pretty damn good, 4.5, a little bit slow for my liking, but not bad. This is a guy to me that he has everything you need to be good, but I just didn't see everything great on tape. Like, it was a lot of good, above average, but nothing really great. Okay, so again, this is a guy that could turn out to be really good because he can do a little bit of everything, or just never get to that next level because that ability that he's not able to really have something elite. Like, you have some guys in the NFL are just burners, and they get that role that I'm going to be the burner for this football team. You have the guys that are really good route runners, and they have that role to be that really good route runner for that football team. You got guys that are built just to be red zone jump ball guys, and that's what they do. Rice is good at everything, but a master of none. And to me, that's where some things may be troubling if you're trying to be a role player for a team, try to fit a role. But if you just want a really good all-around receiver, if this guy can get really good at everything instead of being just good or slightly above average at everything, he can be an elite receiver. He has the ability to be an elite receiver, just like Odunze and all those guys. They have the capability with their size and their athleticism to become elite receivers. So what are his strengths? He uses body to attack the football. He has good route running. He has that special catching ability. and then he fights for extra yards after the catch. Doesn't really have many weaknesses, if any. I really don't think he has any. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of in between. So again, this is a guy that you got to kind of mold into being a good receiver. He has the tools, doesn't really have any weaknesses. You just got to take those things that are mediocre and make them elite. And this guy could be really special. Here's his breakdown. Your boil the water and take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Roman Wilson, 5'10", 185, and a 4.39 40. 5'10", 185, and a 4.39 40. Now, I'm not bashing Roman Wilson. I love this kid. I'm gonna tell you right now, I love this kid. I just want to do some. I just want to like make note of how special somebody else is in this draft class right now. And I know that if you're watching the video from before, you're like, why are you even mentioning this guy? He had his turn. Well, Roman Wilson's 5'10", 185, and a 4.39 40. There's a guy that I already talked about that is 1, 2, 3 inches taller, 5, 10, 15. Oh, we can keep going. 20, 25. No, 36 pounds heavier. And we're in the same 40, and that's Xavier Legette. Okay, so again, I'm not bashing Wilson by any measures. I'm just trying to make you guys understand how special, okay, we're talking about Xavier Legette's athleticism and body is. All right. So now back to Roman Wilson, who I really, really do like. Again, 5'10", 185, 4.39 40. This kid is one of those guys who seem like they have all the tools they need to succeed at the next level from their tape. He's willing to take big hits over the middle of the field while holding on to the football. He makes some really great catches that most receivers cannot make. Although he is not a large guy, he's able to use his size to box out defenders and high point the football. He's able to transition into a runner very smoothly after the catch. This kid can be an elite level slot receiver at the next level if given an opportunity. This is another guy to me that is really, really like going to be like special. He has the capability of being special. So what are his strengths with that being mentioned? Well, it's simple. Speed, 4.39 40 is pretty damn good. He can catch in traffic and is not afraid to take a hit. He has that ability to make some special catches, uses his size to box out defenders, high points of football, transitions to a runner very smoothly after the catch, which again, a lot of guys don't get that on their strengths. This guy has it. When he catches a ball, he's a really, really smooth transition to a runner guy. And last but not least, I think he has the capability of being an elite slot receiver at the next level who can also line up on the outside. But again, I believe he'll probably be more of a slot receiver. His weaknesses, he doesn't really fight for extra yards. Once again, if he gets wrapped up, he's probably going down. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, okay? Earned a 71 as his grade, okay? 6'3", 213, 4.61 40. Here's his notes. This kid has some of the most crazy catches I have watched in a long time. It shows his ability to keep concentration on the football and his ability to catch a ball with one hand when needed to. He can stretch the field vertically or take a screen pass a long way. He can also be utilized as a punt returner, as he did a good job in college. He uses his size to his advantage. As a runner, he can make defenders miss, stiff arm them, or even use a hurdle on occasion. I liked what I saw out of his film, and with a good quarterback at the next level, I think he can elevate his game to another level. So what are his strengths? Well, here we go again. Great size, right? 6'3", 213. This is perfect. This is where I want you to be. 6'2", 6'1". Hell, 6'3" is even better. I want you around 205 to 215. 205 being the least. He's 213. That's right where I want you to kind of be. 4'6", 140. Eesh. And he doesn't play extremely fast either. But there's some hope. At the combine, he was ranked in at being one of the fastest guys when he's doing that one catching drill. So, but his tape doesn't seem extremely fast either. So I don't think he's 4.6, 140 time speed, but I think he's probably 4.52 to 4.55 in game speed, which isn't elite, but it's okay. All right. But again, he's going to get deducted some points for running such a slow 40. And again, he's not the fastest guy. He does lack elite speed. So again, great size, good special catching ability, great concentration. As I mentioned, great concentration. Okay. And we keep going here. He can be a return man. He returns some balls in film that I watched. He has some yards after the catch. Okay. That's something that he can do. He catches in traffic and he uses his size. All right, so there's all kinds of things that he can do. His weakness, He lacks elite speed. And when you're on a 4.6 140, that's just a little bit of it, right? Again, 4.61, maybe been a better off if you didn't run it. I love that you compete, but that now like I always say that you should just run. Just run. But if you're gonna be that bad and you know you're gonna get deducted, maybe don't. Maybe you shouldn't, because at least then we can use our imagination. Here's his breakdown. You're more of the water. Take a look at that. Here's the next guy, okay? Earned a 71 as a grade. Adonai Mitchell, okay? 6'2", 205, 4'3", 440. Okay, another guy that has all the physicals you want in a receiver. And here's his tape. Here's his notes. This kid does a great job adjusting his body to the football. All right. He may have some of the best body control I've seen in a while. He also looks to be a good route runner on film, which I like to see. He can do a little bit of everything, but I would say he's not extremely great in any area either. If I had to make a prediction, I would believe that he could be at best a 1B if he maximizes his potential. I feel it is more likely he's a solid number 2, though. So again, look, we can sit here, we can say everyone's going to be a 1A, and I'm sure we'll get a lot right, but more wrong, right? And I can sit here and say everyone's potential, the sky's the limit. And I can go back and hand choose a field. Or I can be honest and true about what I see and tell you what I think. And I think that I've watched a lot of film over my lifetime and a lot of guys, and I feel like every year I get a little bit better, and I got more examples and more experience of when I hit and when I missed. And I feel like Mitchell is one of those guys that I've watched before that has size, has speed, but he may just never live up to that 1A potential. So I truly believe if I had to make a prediction, he's going to be a 1B. Now, again, I sit here and I know that people are going to hate me for saying this, but it's the truth. And if he turns out to be good, people are like, oh my God, I don't know how good you do that. He was 4.34 with a 6'2", 205. The thing is this. He has all the tools. I just, like with some other guys, they are freaking natures. 6'3", 220, 4'3", 940. 6'2", 215, 4'3", 140. The 6'2", 205, 4'3", 440, yeah, that's a freak, but that's not an extreme freak. And then he also doesn't have like great route running or anything to pair up with it. So both the Texas receivers, and Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, they both to me seem like they have a lot of good, but they're just not well-rounded, right? It's like they have a lot of good, but just not great, and speed, like their speed are both elite level speeds, right? Worthy's elite too, Mitchell's elite as well with speed, but neither of them have great route running. And I think Mitchell, though, as a prospect, probably lives up to a little bit more of an all-around guy for sure than Xavier Worthy is. Okay, so again, what's Mitchell's stuff? Strength, speed, 4.3, 4.40, adjusted to football, great body control. That's something I will say. This dude with his speed stuff, he can still really adjust to the football and has great body control to get to it. Good route running, special catches. And again, I do say good route running here because there are times I saw that he does have some good route running. I'm just saying, like, he's not an elite route runner either. So it's up in the, with his speed and his route running, you think I would have him higher. I don't know. We'll have to look at his breakdown to see why he earned a 71 and a lot lower than some other people. His weakness, I didn't see him catch the balls in traffic. So again, it's like, if you just want this guy to be speed and a little bit of route running, you got him. And I don't know why this guy couldn't be like a Jordan Addison. I was a lot lower on him than I think I should be. But something just made me not love his tape. I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. Here's his breakdown. Let's take an actual in-depth look here a little bit. Because I'm wondering why he's so low on my board. And this is my grade scale. And he's a little bit low on my personal analysis too. Like, I guess, not having a great release, being an above average route runner, not a great catching track. So he's not really willing to take balls over the middle of the field. And again, really good speed. Oh, doesn't really use his body. So it's a lot of okay. That's what I'm saying. Again, a lot of okay with some elite and then not willing to do some things either. But it's tough. Again, we'll see. My final rankings may change. He may be higher on my final ranking sheet. I have to go back, do a little bit more film study on this guy because, again, everything kind of checks. Everything is when I look at his stuff, all the boxes should be checked. I just don't know why he was a little bit lower than I think he should be. I don't know. We'll see. Here's the next guy. All right, Jermaine Burton. There's a lot of good receivers in this draft class, ladies and gentlemen. That could be another reason why some of these guys are lower than others. Jermaine Burton, okay, 6 foot, 196, 4'4", 540. Okay, like I said, earned a 71 as his grade. Here's his notes. This kid is going to be a solid player for a team if he's given a chance. He has pretty solid route running. He can line up in the slot or on the outside. His ability to adjust to the football is at a high level. One of my favorite parts of his game is his ability to catch a football in heavy traffic and absorb a huge hit. Burton has no fear catching the ball over the middle of the field, which I love to see. Burton at best would be a 1B at the next level, but I would not be shocked to see him as a number 2 or a slot guy in the NFL. So again, like he has the ability, in my opinion, to be a 1B. I don't think he'll be a 1A. I think he'll be either a really good slot receiver or a 1B. Just didn't have it all for me. A little bit undersized for me, not the fastest, makes some good catches, has pretty good route running, right? He's versatile. Probably, I think he would make his money more in the slot. There's a lot of guys I would say are probably better off in the slot in this year's draft class. And I think he'd be special there. I really do. Strengths, 4.45 speeds, pretty dang good. Versatility, right? Slot and outside. He can do a little bit of both. Just to the football. He can catch traffic and he's not afraid to take a hit. No true weaknesses, a lot in the middle. So again, this is a guy that you can work with and mold him into being a really good receiver. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Luke McCaffrey. Okay, 6'1", 198, 4'4", 640, has a 71 as his grade. Here's his notes. This kid seems like he could be a guy that is being slept on. He was able to make some really good catches throughout his college career. He also seems like he has a decent burst of acceleration after he catches the football. He has some of the best hands in the draft as he can make some really special catches. He is also able to take big hits over the middle of the field and hold on to the football. He played in the slot a lot, but I think he could do both at the next level. He has all the tools needed to be good at the next level. Depending on his opportunity and his landing spot, it could change the way his career goes. Okay, so again, if this guy lands onto a team where he has an opportunity, where they're going to use him as a good quarterback, he can end up being pretty good. I mean, 6'1", 198, he's tall enough. I would like him to gain an extra 7-8 pounds at least. Runs a decent 40 time. He's a solid athlete, and we all know who his brother is. So again, could he have the inner Ed McCaffrey also in him? Again, made some really awesome catches. Here's his strengths, right? Catching traffic, versatility, and line up in the slot or on the outside. Again, he's a little bit big for the slot, but hell, if you want a big slot guy, here's a guy. And make some really special catches. This is a guy you can throw the ball up to, and he's going to make some really awesome catches. Weaknesses, not the greatest route runner right now and doesn't have phenomenal agility. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Malachi Corley, okay? 5'11", 215, 4'4", 740, all unofficial pro day numbers. One more time, 5'11", 215, 4'4", 740, okay? So again, all unofficial pro day numbers, all right? Let's take a look at what I said about his notes. This kid can line up as an outside receiver or in the slot, but I would expect to see him be a slot guy at the next level. One thing I absolutely admire about his game is his ability to fight for extra yards. For being a smaller guy, you would not expect him to be able to break tackles. He is willing to lower his shoulder and run over defenders, which is fun to watch. He may fight for yards better than anyone I have watched in the last 2 to 3 years. Corley is a guy that is going to beat defenders after the catch. Teams need to find ways to get the ball in his hands because I would not say that he is going to be because I don't see that he's going to be a 1A or a 1B receiver at the next level, but he has the capability to make plays for an offense willing to use him towards his strengths. So this is a guy that you got to get the ball to him. Screen, slant, drag, something. Just get the ball in his hands. Now, I said smaller guy because he looked like he was 5'11", maybe 190, 200. But no, according to his pro day measurements, which again, I rather have official combine measurements, but according to his pro day, if I'm taking him for the word, 5'11", 215, 215. This guy's big. Okay, so that's why he's able to run over defenders and fight for extra yards. He's a big guy. So let's see his strength. So again, versatility. He can line up in the slot or on the outside. He fights for extra yards. He can run over defenders. Great with the ball in his hands. And again, I think the offenses just need to get the ball in his hands fast and let him go to work. And again, he can make some special catches. His weaknesses, he lacks size / use of body. For him, it's not so much he lacks size as much that he doesn't really use his body on tape, right? This is where he needs to use his body, use that 215, 5'11 to get in front of a defender and catch the football. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. And again, someone want to stand out because it was so damn special. It just fights for extra yards. This is kind of like a Debo. He can make people miss and run some people over in open space. Kind of built a little bit more like a running back in a wide receiver's, skill set. Here's the next guy, okay? He earned a, as you can see, 70 as a grade, okay? Let's see what we got here. 5'11", 188, 4.4640. Okay, again, 5'11", 188, 4.4640. Again, not the fastest and not the biggest. Okay, a little bit undersized, a little bit slower than you would want an undersized to possibly be. But let's see what his notes are. This kid seems like an explosive player in small spaces. He has some great acceleration and quick movements, which will help him separate early. He is one of the best route runners in this class and has a really good release package with his quickness off the line of scrimmage. He also great after the catch because of his agility. The only concern that I have is that he looks skinny on tape. I'm not sure if he could ever be a 1A, but he could be an elite slot or could develop into a 1B at best. This kid kind of reminds me of Tank Dell. So there you go. I mean, tell me that in a good comparison. Tank Dell, I would want to be compared to Tank Dell right now. 5'11", 188. I said he kind of looks skinny. Well, those numbers kind of let me know that, yeah, he is a little bit undersized at 188. But again, in the NFL, you'll gain 7-8 pounds of muscle, put him up to like 195 to 200, and he'll be fine there. So 188 is not bad. You just got to eat a little bit, lift a little bit, and probably by his second season, he'll be right around 200 pounds, which is fine. Here's the thing, right? Strengths, explosive player. Get the ball in his hands again. He'll make some plays. Great acceleration, really quick, fidgety, right? Twitchy. I love it. Good release package, good route runner. Can catch balls in traffic and has good agility. His weaknesses are he lacks that special catch ability, right? He doesn't really make any one-handed or special catches, right? No pass interferences and then grabbing it with one hand. He doesn't have that ability, and he lacks size/user body. Again, a little bit of both here. Doesn't really use his body on tape that much, and also he lacks a great size. 5'11", 188, doesn't use that body. That honestly he doesn't really have. He doesn't have the body to use, so it kind of goes hand in hand. But I see some guys that are 5'8", 170 that use their body. So again, it's no excuse. He could still use what he got. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, earned a 69 as his grade. Jalen McMillan, 6'1", 197, 4.4740. Here's his notes. This kid is a pretty good route runner who's able to get open and create yards after the catch. He does a good job getting open, especially down the field. He does a good job creating separation, seems to know where the holes are in the zone of the defenses. He does a great job coming back to the quarterback when a play breaks down as well. So this guy's kind of like a quarterback's best friend, right? When a play breaks down, he'll come back to the quarterback. And again, these are things that you think that receivers just know, but so many guys just give up. They start walking down the field, or they just keep running a route 47 yards down the field. Jalen McMillan's going to adjust and come back, which is a quarterback's best friend. And for a guy way down the list here in a loaded wide receiver draft class, this is something to really love. If you're a wide receiver or if you're a quarterback and you want to give your quarterback a good friend, if you want a quarterback-friendly wide receiver, this is probably one of your guys that you can probably get a little bit later than some of the other guys. Because again, this draft is so loaded with talent. So what are his strengths? Well, he gains a good amount of yards after the catch. He creates separation. He's able to find holes in the zones. He comes back to the quarterback when the play breaks down, which I absolutely love to see. He has pretty good route running and good agility. Again, no weaknesses. A lot of the middle, no weaknesses. Has a lot to work with here. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Devontez Walker, earned a 68 as his grade. 6'1", 193, ran a 4.3640. Okay, here's his notes. This kid looks like, to me, to be a primarily down-the-field threat for an offense. He can be utilized in a quick offensive attack scheme, but he has the ability to stretch the field vertically. From the film I watched, there were not many scenarios where he made defenders miss or break tackles after the catch. He does have good hands and great concentration when the ball is in the air. He can also line up in the slot or on the outside. So this is a guy, again, good speed. 4.3640 is fast, okay? And again, if you want a burner and you're in the late rounds, this is a guy that you could potentially get to fill in that role. Or even in the earlier rounds, if you need a guy that's fast and all the guys are off the board, this is a guy that you could possibly go for, right? He's a down the field threat. Okay. He's a guy that is going to use that speed to get down the field, and you can possibly give him a long ball. Special catch ability, right? That's another strength of his. He's able to make some really good catches, down the football field. And again, his weaknesses, route running, not the greatest route runner. Again, good speed, can get down the field again, but not the most crisp route runner so far. He lacks some of that elite agility you want to see, especially from some of these burners. If they have that agility to go with it, it might be a guy you just want to get the ball into their hands as fast as he can. Well, this is a guy that doesn't have that elite agility you're looking for. And again, he doesn't really fight for extra yards. Once he gets touched, he usually goes down. So again, this is a guy purely, if you want a down the field threat, this could be one of your guys. Here's his breakdown. Your Mola Water, and take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Xavier Worthy, under 67 as his rate. 5'11", 165, 4'2", 140. Okay. This guy's fast. 4'2", 140, broke the record for the 40-yard dash at the combine. There's a lot to like about this guy, but again, 5'11", 165. 165. Right? A lot of questions there. Okay, so here's his notes. This kid smoothly transitions to a runner after the catch, which allows him to maximize his yards after the catch. He has the ability to stretch the field vertically or gain yards in the underneath game with his legs. He's also utilized as a returner, which he tends to excel at. I do not believe he will ever become a 1A at the next level, but that does not mean that he can't have a productive career. Between his agility and his return ability, he will find a way to be on a roster for a while. So again, this is a guy that you got to manufacture things with, right? He has such elite speed. He has the ability to be special, but you got to really manufacture it. And the thing is that I don't think that he's just good enough just to run and get open. I don't like, against the elite, fast coverage corner, I don't think he gets off the coverage, even with his speed. Like, yeah, he's faster, but if you line him up against a fast, good corner, one of those guys that has a 4.3 40, and is good, I don't think he has a route running ability to really create separation. So again, this is a guy, to me at least, as of right now, I don't think that he's going to develop into being a 1A. It doesn't mean he won't be good. Just me being honest, okay? So again, elite speed, 4.2, 140, broke the combine record, transitions to a runner very smoothly, which you got to love to see. And again, that's what you like to see, is that this is a guy that once he gets the ball, he turns into a runner and he could potentially be off to the races. Like, he doesn't slow down at all. He doesn't, his steps don't slow down. He doesn't trip over his feet, catches it smoothly, boom, cuts off to the races. He can stretch the field vertically for a team. You utilize him in the underneath game. Again, that's what you got to do. Underneath and over top. Underneath and over top. He's not going to be so good at that intermediate stuff, I don't think. He's not going to be the guy that holds onto a ball over the middle of the field. You got to give him a screen pass, a little short, hit him in the flat, out route, zig, over the top, over the top, over the top, zig, out route. And if you keep on doing that game, go route, now comeback route, go route, come back. Guess what the corner is going to do? The corner is never going to play press. And the corner is going to they're going to try to get back into their drop as fast as possible because of the threat of the speed. And that should leave his underneath game open. So again, if an offensive coordinator is smart, like myself, I'm going to make sure that I use this guy where defenses fear his speed so that we can use him in the underneath game. Okay. And that's going to even open up the intermediate game. Okay. So there's so much that can happen. All right. So let's continue this now. So, I mentioned the strengths, okay? Elite speed, transition to the runner smoothly, stretches the field vertically, use it underneath, return man, and agility. The weaknesses to me is a lack size and the use of body, both of them. 5'11", 165, he's skinny. I mean, look at like these arms, these legs. He's a skinny guy. I question if he'll be able to stay healthy for a long time. And not only that, he doesn't really use his body a lot on tape. Another thing, he doesn't really make special catches. He doesn't really catch the ball in traffic. He doesn't really fight for extra yards. Usually once he's wrapped up, he goes down. The thing is this. A lot of the time, he didn't have to make special catches and make, catches in traffic, because when you watch his tape, what did he do most of the time? Well, he just ran by the defenders, okay? So again, it was very easy. It's tough to, analyze these things if you just don't see it on the tape. Here's his breakdown. Your moral water, and take a look at that. Here's the next guy, Jacob Cowing. Okay, 5'8", 168, 4'3", 840. Again, fast but small. Okay, compared to Xavier Worthy, who we just talked about, 3 inches smaller, 3 pounds heavier, and still fast, but not as fast. So again, this is a guy, if you need a burner, you might look into him. But at 5'8", 168, he definitely lacks some size. So let's go to his notes. This kid may not be the biggest guy, but he is very agile, can use his body to get to the football. He's able to make some really good catches, which shows that his lack of height is not a huge issue, but it is still enough of a concern to write him off as not being a 1A receiver. He's another guy where teams will want to get him the ball in open space. He's able to get open, especially if the quarterback can buy extra time. So again, this is a guy to me where he's not going to get open right away, but sometimes he may need some time to get open. So if a quarterback can buy time, he's gonna get open, which is really good to see. Here's his strengths again: speed 4.38 40, so it shows his speed. He has pretty dang good agility. He uses his body, which is nice, even though he's only 5'8", 168. He does have size. I mean, he does use his body. He doesn't have the size, but he does use what he does have. He makes some really special catches. Weaknesses again, lacks size at 5'8", 168. You gotta question his health long term, and if he's gonna again, when you're 5'8", you're probably not going to be a 1A receiver. He doesn't have a great release off the line of scrimmage, not the best route runner, okay, in the league either. And he doesn't really fight for extra yards either. Once he gets wrapped up, he usually goes down. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that as we go to our last guy. Last guy, Ainas Smith, okay, earned a 65 as a grade. 5'9", 190, ran a 4.47 40. Let's go to his notes, and then we're going to sum it up and look at some rankings. This kid was an electric punt returner in college football. He'll most likely be utilized as a return man in the NFL because I do not expect him to be utilized in most offenses. He is super agile and can use his elusiveness to create yards after the catch. As small as he is, there's not much hope that he will be an elite receiver at the next level. If an offense gets creative, then they could utilize, Smith to the best of his abilities. He is great in open space, and offenses would have to manufacture ways to get him the ball quick. So again, this is a guy, once again, where you got to do some manufacturing, and really good offensive coordinators will be able to do that. So what is he? He's an electric return man, right? This guy will probably find his way on an NFL roster via his return ability, not necessarily his receiving skills. He has great agility, right? Able to make people miss, et cetera, et cetera. That's what kind of makes him a really good return man. He gains a lot of yards after the catch. Okay, so again, when the ball's in his hands, we clearly see that this guy's good. The issue is getting there, and that's what his weaknesses are. To me, he doesn't have a great release. He's not a great route runner. He doesn't make some special catches, and he doesn't always keep his toes in bounds, and he lacks size/use of body, right? He lacks the ability to use his body, and honestly, he doesn't really have that much of a body to use at 5'9", 190. So again, those two things go hand in hand. Here's his breakdown. You're more than welcome to take a look at that. So here we go, our 2024 wide receiver rankings via the grade scale, right? According to the grade scale, this is a rankings. Now, again, you're going to see how my grade scale did in previous years too. So, and you'll see how they compare this year's class to last year's class. I don't agree with the scale at all usually, right? I mean, we have some agreements. I base a lot of my rankings on the scale, but if I'm being 100% honest with you, this is not my rankings, not even close. So again, Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1, Malik Nabers 2, Johnny Wilson 3, Brian Thomas Jr. 4, Pearsall 5, Franklin 6, Legette 7, Polk 8, Washington 9, Odunze 10, McConkey 11, Rice 12, Wilson 13, Coleman 14, Mitchell 15, Burton 16, McCaffrey 17, Corley 18, 19 Thrash, 20 McMillan, 21 Walker, 22 Worthy, 23 Cohen, and 24 Smith. Okay, so the top 24 guys, the 24 guys that I scouted this year, here's the rankings of these guys, okay, according to the grade scale, which is unbiased. It takes what they are good at, those letter grades, and converts it to a scale. Those scales are the overall grades that you saw, how many of the possible points are able to be earned, and that's what gives me these rankings. Now, again, let's now look at the next slide. 2024 draft compared to 2023 rankings via the grade scale. Okay, last year versus this year, taking the same exact grade scale and comparing last year's class to this year's class. So let's see what we got, okay? Marvin Harrison Jr. ranks number 1 according to the 2 scales. Then Nabers, Wilson, Thomas Jr., Pearsall, okay? And then we see our first change. So according to the scale this year, the top 5 guys this year are better than the number one guy last year, who, according to their grade scale, was Rashee Rice. I want to make that clear again. Their grade scale has Rashee Rice as number one last year. So if you like that, then maybe you'll like this ranking better than mine, because I also had Rashee Rice in my top three. Rashee Rice honestly would have been my number one or number two. I felt a little bit of pressure. I ended up putting him three. But again, according to my grade scale, he was number one. But it has five guys from this year, all higher than Rashee Rice and Quentin Johnston, who are 6 and 7. After that, it's Troy Franklin, okay, Xavier Legette, Jalen Polk, Malik Washington, Odunze, Lad McConkey. So literally, again, it goes in spurts here. So from 7, sorry, not from 7, from 8 to 13, you got guys from this year. It's like tier 2 of guys from this year. Then you got last year against Cedric Tillman at 14. Then you go on another run from this year. Brenden Rice, Roman Wilson, 15-16 from this year. Nathaniel Dell, Josh Downs, Dontavian Wicks from last year. Then Keon Coleman at 20, with Mitchell at 21, Flowers from last year, and Mims from last year, 22-23. This year, Jermaine Burton at 24, A.T. Perry at 25, Dante Demas and Douglas from last year, 26-27. This year, 28, Luke McCaffrey. My grade scale wasn't very kind to Jackson Smith-Njigba and having him at 29 between the 2 years. Okay, Malachi Corley at 30 and Jamari Thrash at 31. Everybody on this list got rated at a 70 or higher. My cutoff was 70 for an overall grade. So everyone you see on this list earned a 70 or higher in the last 2 years that I scouted. Okay, let's go and take a look at the next slide. 2024 draft compared to 2023 rankings via my personal analysis. So I can't change my rankings from last year. So they stay the same. What it was is what it is. Okay, and that's going to stay that way. But with that being mentioned, that doesn't mean that I can't put guys higher and lower than them, but I got to base it on a true prospect performance. What does that mean? Well, I'm not going to just rank Rashee Rice higher than everyone this year because he looked good on the Chiefs last year. That has nothing to do with it. It's what Rashee Rice was, what Quentin Johnston was as a prospect. So an example, right? Literally, Rashee Rice and Quentin Johnston are two great examples. I was high on both of them. Johnson turned out to look pretty bad last year. Rashee Rice turned out to be good last year. They were my top 3 guys last year, okay? And it's actually really funny because Rashee Rice looked the best, who was my number 3. Smith-Njigba, who was my number 2, ended up being number 2, but it was reversed. And Quentin Johnston was my number 1, so number 3. So my top 3 last year were actually reversed in performance from last year. But I can't change that because as prospects, I thought Quentin Johnston would end up being the best prospect. And that's why he went in the first round, right? Jackson Smith, I thought, would be the second best prospect, and Rashee Rice the third. So according to a prospect, I have Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Nabers, and Brian Thomas Jr. all coming out of the draft, just like Quentin Johnston did, as better. All 3 of them will be my number one. If I had a draft last year to this year, I would draft all 3 of them before I touched a receiver from last year's draft. Okay? So Harrison Jr., Nabers, then Thomas Jr. That would be my first 3. Then Quentin Johnston, Smith-Njigba, Rashee Rice. Okay? Then after that, I would take Odunze, Xavier Legette, Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman. Okay, that's the next step of guys. Okay, so Odunze, Legette, Wilson, Coleman. And then last year, I have Downs and Flowers. And as much as I want to change this now and put Flowers and Addison over Downs, this is how I had it coming out of the draft, so I got to leave it the same. So Downs at 11, 12 Flowers, 13 Addison. Next would be 14 Polk, 15 Franklin, 16 Pearsall, 17 McConkey, 18 Roman Wilson. And what drives me nuts is that Pearsall and McConkey are 2 guys that are going to be phenomenal slot receivers, but I just don't know how I put them over guys that can all be 1As above them. Right? All these guys above them, for the most part, are either 1A receivers or 1B receivers. Or do I put 2 guys that have the possibility of being an elite slot receiver over those guys? It's just tough to do. Be in my shoes. You put an elite slot receiver over a guy that can be a 1A. I don't know if you can do that, but I do it in some areas, and that's the guys below these guys. So again, McConkey. I love Roman Wilson as well. Then I got Mingo, who I was a huge fan of. Hyatt, and Tillman, and Dell from last year. And then Adonai Mitchell and Jermaine Burton. My top 24 between the 2 last years would be these 24 from their prospects. As prospects, my top 24 between the 2 years combined would be these 24 guys. Okay, let's go to the next slide. 2024 wide receiver rankings via my personal analysis. Okay. This is it. This is a rankings. I hate doing this. I'd rather you watch my analysis on each guy, overlooking at these rankings. I spend about 20 minutes, 30 minutes doing these compared to hours and hours and hours on analyzing people. And I know I'm going to have some misses. For all I know, Ainas Smith is going to turn out to be the top 5 guy. You never know. You never know. And I'm willing to go out there on a limb and show you all this, and hopefully I'm right. So let's see what we got. So number 1, Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay, number 2, Malik Nabers. Number 3, Brian Thomas Jr. Number 4, Odunze. Number 5 is Xavier Legette. Number 6, Johnny Wilson. 7, Coleman. 8, Polk. 9, Franklin. 10, Pearsall. 11, McConkey. 12, Wilson. 13, Mitchell. 14, Burton. 15, Rice. 16, Walker. 17, Worthy. 18, Washington. 19, McCaffrey. 20, McMillan. 21, Thrash. 22, Corley. 23, Cowing, and 24, Smith. Okay, these are my top 24 guys in this year's draft class. Let me know what you think. Okay, I'm going to answer some fan questions. One thing I want to say right now, because I got a few things that may move before the actual draft. Let's start with this. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Nabers. I'm going to be honest with you. Off pure tape alone, if I'm going to be 100% realistic, I think Malik Nabers looked better on tape than Marvin Harrison Jr. I truly do think he was. And the reason why I put him I'm kind of feeling some pressure to put Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1. I usually hate to do that. Usually when I do that, I'm wrong. But I'm leaving him at 1 for now. He's a little bit bigger. He has really good release packages. I just want to make this clear. The gap between Harrison Jr. and Nabers is not big at all. And I think you could argue Nabers is better, and I think you can really argue that Nabers could be taken off the board sooner. I think you could argue that Nabers can have a better career. We don't know. We'll wait and see. Brian Thomas Jr. at 3. This is more potential-based. He has a lot of potential. He can get there, but what scares me is he could also end up being like a guy like Rashad Bateman or Traylon Burks on my list in past years that come back to haunt me. So we'll see what Brian Thomas Jr. hopefully ends up being a stud, but he could come back to haunt me. Odunze, I'm not so high on him, but I'm trusting in his work ethic to be good. Okay, so we're going to see what happens there. Legette and Wilson are more of my guys. Legette's a guy I feel like could be higher than 5, to be honest with you. I think he can honestly be higher than Odunze and Thomas Jr., but he does have work to do, and I don't want to put a guy that is, again, a lot potential-based up there at 2 or 3 if I don't know yet. So what's making me nervous is that if I make this guy extremely high, and he doesn't live up to that potential, there's an issue. Thomas Jr. is another one. Like Odunze is the most polished out of the 2 of them. I just trust Brian Thomas Jr. a little bit more than Legette. So that's why I put Thomas Jr. at 3, Odunze at 4, Legette at 5. Johnny Wilson, if he stays a receiver, I think he could be pretty damn good. I have him at 6. I think that he could shock a lot of people at receiver. Keon Coleman at 7. I know he ran a slow 40, but he has 2 good hands to really be a lot lower than 7. Polk, 8. I think he's special. I think you can argue that he might have been better than Odunze at Washington, to be quite honest with you. I think he's going to be pretty dang good at the next level. Troy Franklin's a really good receiver. He could be elite, really a route runner and explosiveness. And then the final 3 guys, I'm only going to mention to 12. Pearsall, McConkey, and Wilson. Pearsall and McConkey, either of them could end up being the elite slot receiver. Whoever ends up in the better system, in my opinion, is that damn close between the 2 of them. Wilson, I think, could be special too. This kid, he can do a little bit of everything. And again, he could also be another potential slot guy. The guys over here, no knocks towards any of them. Any of them can turn out to be a good receiver. It's just going to take a little bit more than some of these other guys, in my opinion, the top 12. So now let's go to the fan questions. All right, so here's the first one. How does this draft class compare to previous drafts? Well, again, going back to what we saw earlier, right? This class, I feel like, is one of the most fulfilling wide receiver draft class we have seen in a long time. It has a lot of guys, a lot of everything. You got some burners, you got some guys that you use underneath. You got some guys that are kind of like can play that Debo role in a little bit. You got a lot of big guys, 6'2", 6'3", 220, 205, 215. You got guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Nabers at the top of the draft class that are just going to be freaking animals and elite receivers, in my opinion. You got some guys like Brian Thomas Jr., and a Xavier Legette who can become animals, in my opinion. You got a hard worker in Odunze. I just don't remember the last time we've had 4 to 5 elite top guys in a draft class that you can argue are probably top 50, candidates for the big board. And I like compared to previous drafts, like you saw compared to last year's draft, I would take the first 5 guys, my guy from this year, top 5 guys this year, out of anybody from last year's draft class. So that just shows you, and you think Liberty Rice was good, but last year's draft class was not that great of a wide receiver class. It wasn't. And I kind of said that then, right? You had the year with Chase, right? And Devontez Smith and Waddle and all these guys, and that was pretty good. But I would argue that this one's better from an all-around standpoint. I truly believe we could see 10 guys in this year's draft class that have some sort of role. And when I talk about who, Marvin Harrison Jr. will be a starter day one. Malik Nabers will be a starter day one. Brian Thomas Jr. should be a starter day one. Okay, Ricky Pearsall will probably be a starting slot receiver day one, in my opinion. Troy Franklin may find himself onto the field day one. Odunze will be a day one starter. So you already have the 5-6 guys right there. McConkey should be a day one slot receiver. Okay, I think guys like Roman Wilson, Keon Coleman, Xavier Legette, Adonai Mitchell could all be day one starters as well. And I think I already mentioned Troy Franklin, but I think all these guys could start on some offenses. And again, it's going to come down to where they're drafted. So I just mentioned right there alone, the guys I just mentioned, at least probably about 8 to 12 guys that will and can start right away to begin next year as rookies, which again, I think if you look at most years, you're not seeing 8 to 13 guys starting day one. Okay. Which that is pretty impressive. And I feel like 2 to 5 of them are 2 guaranteed elite guys in this class, wide receiver wise. And I think you can have up to 5 guys that we're saying are in the top 20 receivers at the end of next year. Like talent wise, I'm saying that there could be up to 5 guys from this year's draft class that we're saying are in the top 20 in receivers. And not by the end of the year. Okay. I'm saying by the end of like 2-3 years from now, when we look at the top 20 receivers, I can argue that 2 to 5 guys from this year's draft class will be in it, which is crazy. Because you still got guys like Mike Evans and old vets. You know what I mean? Like I said, Evans and A.J. Brown now, who's getting older. You know what I mean? And DK Metcalf and those guys. And I'm going to say that I could argue that 2 to 5 guys in 3 to 4 years from now will be in the top 20 just from this one draft class alone. And when you go back and look at all the previous draft classes, you're lucky if you see 3 guys in there or 4 guys in there that are any good. I think out of the 24 guys I scouted, I think that we're saying at least 5 of them could potentially be in the top 20 in the NFL, let alone there's probably at least 10 to 13 guys that I feel like could be role players or quality players in the league. Last question. Who are some of your favorite prospects in this year's draft class? Well, again, Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, Malik Nabers, right? But those are guys that you know. So I'm not going to tell you guys I know. I'm going to tell you guys that I think people are sleeping on. Johnny Wilson's a guy, if he stays as a receiver, I think is being slept on. Xavier Legette, I feel like, is absolutely being slept on. Ricky Pearsall, in my opinion, is being a little bit slept on. He's getting a little bit more hype now because of Fast 40. But man, I was hyping this guy up before then. Okay, before then. Troy Franklin, he's getting a good amount of hype. But again, I just want to point him out because these are guys I really like. Jalen Polk is another one. I could argue that he was better on tape than Odunze. Malik Washington, for being undersized, he was one of my favorite prospects I've watched in a long time. McConkey, I really, really liked his tape. Roman Wilson, I really liked what I saw from him. Okay. And after that, that's really it. So again, I want to mention these guys one more time by name. My sleepers or my guys that are not household names: Johnny Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, Troy Franklin, I'm going to put him in there, Xavier Legette, Jalen Polk, Malik Washington, McConkey, and Roman Wilson. And I would say at least Roman Wilson, McConkey, and Ricky Pearsall, those 3 of those 8 are slot guys. So I just gave you 5 guys, not the well-known, top 3, top 4, top 5. My 5 guys that I feel like are really good guys that I would say could be outside / slot receivers, right? 5. and then 3 definite slot guys, in my opinion. And Roman Wilson, which Roman Wilson going to do a little bit of both too. And I think Franklin could be one of those guys too. So I'm giving you 4 to 5 outside guys and 2 to 3 slot guys that are my guys that I would take. Okay? And those 8, again, if you're not picking early, if you don't have a top 10 pick, top 15 pick, if those guys are on the board and you really need one, those are the guys that I like. And I know I'm skipping some guys that are high on my list, like Keon Coleman and Rome Odunze. I didn't mention those guys, but they're just not my guys. I'm sorry. They're just not my guys. The guys I listed are my guys, and I would take them over a lot of guys. And again, if I got to take one of the guys I just listed, maybe a round later than taking a Rome Odunze in the top 5, top 10, I'm taking one of the guys I just listed in the second round and getting better value, in my opinion, than taking Rome Odunze in the top 10. All right, so that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. We'll see you guys soon. Peace. We are Built Betters.
What, Eddie? What, Eddie, sir?
Hehehehe